The day I walked into my backyard and saw my pool drained bone dry, its white plaster shell glaring in the sun like a stranded whale. My stomach dropped to the floor. All that water I paid for, the chemicals, the insurance, the maintenance, it was gone, gushing into the storm drain because some self-appointed neighborhood tyrants decided my property was theirs to control. And standing there, arms crossed, lips tight in a smug little smile, was the president of our HOA, Karen, acting like she had just enforced the law of the land. That's when I knew things had spiraled into a nightmare. And it all started with a single letter. 2 months after I bought this house, with its quirky kidney-shaped pool that I loved more than I probably should have, I got a notice in the mail. The letter looked official, big header, thick paper, too much self-importance, and it told me I was in violation of community amenity rules. Violation. For what? Not posting a swimming schedule for my neighbors to use my pool, my private backyard pool. I actually laughed at first, laughed so hard my dog tilted his head at me like I was losing my mind. But then I called the number listed at the bottom, still thinking it was a mistake. On the other end, a man with a polished voice named Brian calmly explained that the HOA wanted residents with private pools to share, while the community pool was under repair. Share, as in strangers in my yard, splashing around while I foot the bill. I told him flat out, "That's not happening." He didn't flinch. He said the board had authority. They could fine me, and if I wanted to cooperate, I could set my own hours. That was their version of compromise, me giving them control of my backyard. At first, I tried to reason like a civilized person. I told them if the board wanted to use my pool like a public amenity, then the board could pay for chemicals, higher water bills, and liability coverage. Brian chuckled. He actually chuckled, and said that wasn't neighborly. Neighborly, as if bankrupting myself for other people's kids was just good manners. Within days, another letter came, this one titled "Final Notice Before Fine," listing out the hours I was expected to open my backyard like a public park. Tuesday and Thursday evenings, alternating Saturdays. They even included a pre-made sign for me to print out and tape to my gate. I refused. That refusal drew Karen herself out of hiding. She didn't knock politely. Of course, she marched up with the treasurer, some guy from the property management company, and a laminated sign in her hand. "We're here to help you post your schedule," she said, all tight-lipped authority. I told her the only schedule was me, inviting who I wanted, when I wanted, because it was my property. She smiled with that condescending little grin and said, "You can either be part of the community, or we can go the formal route." Then they left the sign anyway. That night, I sat at my kitchen table, staring at the paper, a mixture of disbelief and fury boiling in my chest. It didn't stop at paper. Suddenly, I was bombarded with fines. $10, $30, $75. Every time I refused to cooperate, they escalated. I started getting texts from unknown numbers, parents asking when they could bring their kids over to swim, some even waiting outside my gate in minivans, confused because they'd been told I was hosting Thursday nights. I walked out to find 6 kids in floaties staring at my locked gate. Their mom genuinely shocked when I told her this was my private property. She asked, "Then why would the board tell us otherwise?" I told her to ask the board. But inside, I felt that creeping fear. You know, the kind that makes you wonder if maybe the world sees you as the bad guy. That's when doubt set in. One evening, I stood at the edge of my pool, watching the water ripple under the patio light. And I thought, maybe I'm the selfish one. Maybe fighting this makes me the unreasonable neighbor, the crank in the corner house. I could hear Karen's words echoing, part of the community, and for a second, I wondered if I should just give in, post the schedule, let them swim. I hated myself for even thinking it, because deep down I knew it wasn't about water or kids having fun, it was about control. If I gave them this, they'd take more. My backyard today, maybe my garage tomorrow. No, I wasn't giving them a single inch. So I fought back the only way I knew how, paper for paper. I sent a certified letter quoting the covenants, pointing out that common areas did not include my backyard. I attached my deed description, crystal clear, showing no easement for public use. I wrote, if the HOA wanted to use my pool as an amenity, they could buy it from me at fair market value, and because I couldn't resist a little petty satisfaction. I printed their sign template, scrawled across it with black marker, pool closed for maintenance until further notice, and zip, tied it to the inside of my locked gate. That felt good, for a moment. But then came the retaliation. HOA volunteers sneaking around with clipboards, photographing my grass, citing me for it being too long, then too short, fining me no matter what. A bright sticky note from Karen herself taped to my door, demanding compliance. And then, the breaking point. One Wednesday morning, my phone camera alerted me. A management company van pulled up to my house. Two men got out with tools and a coil of hose. They walked straight down my side yard toward the pool. My neighbor Owen peeked over the fence and called me, whispering in disbelief. "They're opening your filter. They're draining your pool." I rushed home, heart racing, hands shaking on the steering wheel. By the time I got there, the sound hit me first, that hollow roar of water gushing out, pouring into the alley, into the storm drain. My pool, my pride, my money washing away. Karen was standing there like a queen on her throne, arms folded, telling me it was an emergency order. "We received reports of unsanitary conditions," she said. Unsanitary? Nobody swam in my pool because I wouldn't allow it. The men with the hose shrugged, mumbling about orders. I told them to stop. They ignored me until Owen shouted he was filming. When the police arrived, Karen shoved a laminated sign at them like it was a court order. The officer asked her flat out, did she have legal permission to enter my yard? A court order? The owner's consent? She had none. He asked if I wanted to file a trespass complaint. You bet I did. Then the water authority showed up, furious that chlorinated water was dumped straight into the drain. They tested the runoff, wrote citations, started an investigation. And, for the first time, I saw panic flicker across Karen's face. That was the crack I needed. I hired a lawyer, a calm woman who took one look at the documents and said, "We'll get an injunction." Meanwhile, neighbors who once doubted me started coming around. Kaylin, the mom who'd shown up with her kids, came back to my porch with muffins and an apology. She'd seen the video and realized she'd been lied to. Marcus, an engineer type, offered to help me gather proxies for a recall vote. Even Lester, the 80-something who'd seen every board come and go, told me, "They always overreach. You just have to be the hinge that swings it back." We fought on multiple fronts. My lawyer filed for an emergency injunction, which the judge granted, ordering the HOA to stop trespassing, cancel all fines, and pay to refill my pool. The Water Authority issued fines against both the HOA and the contractor. Marcus dug through board records and found the so-called emergency rule was nothing more than an email chain with a thumbs-up emoji. And the best part? The company that drained my pool, Emergent Pumping Services, turned out to be just a fake front owned by the same management company Karen used. Conflict of interest, fraud, arrogance, it all came spilling out. The recall meeting was the climax. The room buzzed with tension. Neighbors shifting in folding chairs. Karen sitting up front, trying to wear her usual smirk, but looking rattled. Marcus laid out the facts. Owen offered to play the video of them draining my pool. And I just stood there, arms crossed, watching her kingdom collapse. When the votes were counted, it wasn't even close. Karen and her cronies were out, stripped of their power in the very hall they once lorded over. The new board, led by Marcus, promised to protect private property rights, not invade them. That night, as my pool slowly filled back up, legally, properly, with the HOA footing the bill, I sat on my porch and listened to the steady rush of water. It was the sweetest sound I'd ever heard. Karen had been dethroned, her arrogance exposed, her little empire dismantled. And me? I got my peace back, my rights restored, my neighbors on my side. I didn't celebrate, didn't throw a party. I just stood by that gate, locked tight, listening to the silence on the other side, knowing the line had been drawn. They wouldn't cross it again. And that silence, that was victory enough. The lesson I learned? In neighborhoods run by power-hungry bullies, sometimes the only way to protect what's yours is to fight tooth and nail. Document everything, and never let them rewrite the rules of ownership. This was my battle, my backyard, my justice. And that's the kind of story we tell here on HOA Drama Unfolded.